from Independence Day to Mars Attacks, which for obvious reasons was really, really goofy. Mars Attacks was pretty goofy. But in 1986, we had somewhat of a more serious take on invasion from Mars by these Martians who, to some, they would look pretty doggone cheesy, while others, well, considering this was told from a 10-year-old boy's perspective, some would take this movie a little bit more seriously than Mars Attacks because it's impossible not to. However, this one is granted a remake, directed by Tobe Hooper, and I, for one, thought, well, for the most part, I thought it was pretty good. And here it is. Now, I admit, the case in itself looks kind of cheesy, but there's one thing about the case design that I thought would have been better if they would have used this one. Because to me, that captured a little bit more of the ominous and creepiness to this film. Part of what makes this movie work, at least for me, is, to a certain degree, the cast. And then we have the music by Christopher Young, who not only does the opening theme, the opening credit theme, because to me, as often happens with Christopher Young, as I told you from Sinister, he does an incredible job with this score as well. Now, some would say that he didn't, but frankly, I don't really care. Like I said, these are all my critiques anyway. But when I do movie reviews, or I have my own criteria, either from the director, or quite often it's a combination of the director, the scriptwriter, the musician, and the cast. If any of those three elements help the movie, more often than not, I will definitely give it the credit that I think it deserves. Now, when I first saw this movie on TBS or even TNT, I thought it was kind of weird, and it certainly had some scenes that were downright creepy. Although, some would say it's a little too cheesy and campy to even take seriously. But on that note, we also have actress Karen Black, who pretty much tries to help the young boy convince the town that it's being taken over by these creatures. And in some ways, she's one of the first ones to believe them. But, at the same time, it takes a very, very subtle and seriously, and in its own way, very, 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 very weird clue that leads up to her believing him. At first, she doesn't want to, but she tries to give him the benefit of the doubt, because what he tells her does kind of creep her out, to say the least. The boy's parents, played by Timothy Bottoms and Lorraine Newman. Now, I think Lorraine Newman is more of a character actress, but she does a good job in this. But once she gets taken over by the Martians as well, she kind of has some behavior that you're not sure what to think. And then, of course, there's Timothy Bottoms as the father, which kind of does some things that some would find frightening if you're in your preteens. But honestly, by today's standards, yeah, they would seem weird, but not really creepy. But that's okay too, because I watched this from the young boy's perspective anyway. I don't look at it from my age perspective. I look at it from his, and that's not hard for me to do anyway. Christopher Young, who does the music, he does a very, very nice job. And then we have, I'm not even sure if she's in this. I know she's in the movie, but I'm not sure where she is. Okay, she's not on the case. But if anyone knows who Louise Fletcher is, between the original Flowers in the Attic, as that menacing tyrant of a Bible-thumping grandmother, and then, of course, there's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with both her and Jack Nicholson. Well, your guess is as good as mine when it comes to how she does playing villains. And she, in this movie, she's a little bit more goofy, but she's no less convincing. The only reason part of the reason why I didn't care for her is because when she was referring to the young boy, she kept calling him, she kept referring to him by both his first and last name, and that never changed. I didn't like that. Now, there were some scenes that she did that I thought she was kind of menacing, and that was putting it mildly. But the only part that I didn't like about this movie overall, of course, was the skepticism. I didn't care much for that. Although with movies like this, it's kind of hard not to be skeptical at first. I didn't like the cliched ending. Other than that, I thought it was pretty good. And I've watched it numerous times, both on VHS and DVD. I'm not sure if it's ever going to get the Blu-ray treatment. But if it does, I'm not going to be surprised. Because even by today's standard, I think this one's reached cult classic status as well. On that note, if you can take this film on its own merits and watch it from the little boy's perspective, you'll get a lot more out of it. But if you don't, excuse me, well, I don't know what to tell you. It is a pretty good movie for its time, but once again, you have to take it on its own merits and watch it from the young boy's perspective. Otherwise, you may not like it. But, like I said, alien invasion movies, this is one of the first ones that I ever saw, aside from Close Encounters, but that one involved friendly aliens. That one was good too, and I'll get to that one as soon as I watch it again. But until then, check this one out if you like movies like this, and I certainly do. There's no way around it. And take it on its own merits. Thanks again. Take care for now. And as the case says, watch the skies. Once again, take care.